Cool. So yeah, quite often we refer to the coaching point of get up tall when we're running. Now, in isolation, this cue is absolutely valid, but a side effect of that can sometimes mean that despite us wanting to get taller, we can tend to arch through our lower back and end up in this sort of position when we're trying to run. Now, the effect that that has, if you just make a little bit of room, is that despite us wanting to get taller, when we say get tall, we sit back and we do what's called an anterior pelvic tilt through here. So we extend through our back and we flex through our hips, which has given us sort of this sort of shape. Now, for those of us who may experience some tightness in our hamstrings when we run, or we've got ongoing sort of lower back tightness issues because we sit down a lot of the day, in which case we're spending a lot of time in a flex position in our hips, then just saying get up tall and up here isn't necessarily the right cue for us. Now, I can tell just by standing here now, if I stand in that tall position, I can feel that tightness coming on. So one thing we're going to look at is what we can do around here, working through your glutes, and perhaps some better cues to think of in terms of our shape and how we hold ourselves in everyday life, but also when we're running. So, if we first of all address that pelvic position. So, as I mentioned, we can quite often end up in that pelvic, that anterior pelvic tilt. What we need to try and do is, because this position already puts our hamstrings in a lengthened, sort of tense state. The hamstrings insert up into our pelvis there. Tip that pelvis as putting extra tension through here. Now, if we say, come back to that get up tall posture, and it's just going to exacerbate that issue. So actually what we want to think of as a general cue is, if we start from normal, we want to lengthen our neck, we want to get our shoulders down, and rather than heading for a sergeant major posture through there, we just want an element of relaxed state in our upper body, and think more about drawing in through our belly button, a little bit of tension there. An example I use sometimes, just reminding myself of it, imagine you're on the beach and you've got your fancy swimming costume on, your bikini on, or your Bermuda shorts or whatever, and someone attractive walks past, and what you tend to do is sort of draw in just a little bit, rather than sort of standing there and sticking everything out. It's very similar. All we want is just a drawing in. Another way of thinking of it is just a slight bracing, as if someone's just going to tap you in the stomach. So we're drawing in. That already just adjusts our posture and our tilt at our pelvis. If you use my sort of the bottom of my t-shirt or waistband as a bit of an example. So what that does, that opens up our hips a little bit. It allows us to relax around our lower back and takes some of the strain and that extra sort of stretch and tension from our hamstrings and just relaxes that slightly. Okay, so moving forward, when you're running, just think, yes, I want to get tall, but can I relax and can I keep an easy posture rather than being really tight and fixed and rigid from there. Okay, so other areas where that can play a part. So if quite often at park run or just in group runs, we see runners sort of with that tightness in the hips and the bum sticking out, leaning forwards a little bit, working really hard, but perhaps not in our ideal posture. What that also tends to adjust is your stride pattern, and it can tend to lead to a fairly heavy heel contact. Now, a heel contact isn't necessarily a problem. We don't always need to eradicate that, but in that posture, to sort of counter that, what we tend to do is if we come back a step, starting with our head, if our gaze is downwards because we're tired and we're running down here, our head is the heaviest part of our body. So if we bring that forward, already that sticks our bum out. That's then changing the shape again. Now, to try and keep a good stride going, we're tending to stride forwards here and over stride, bringing us down onto our heel here. Whereas if I bring my head up, already that brings my hips up underneath me. I'm going to engage like we've already spoken about. That now gives me room to lead with my knee, and as I travel forward, I'm now going to land over that foot rather than being there and a heavy heel contact again. So even though we're thinking about up here and then around here, it still plays a part further down into the gait cycle down into our feet. Okay, so some things that we can work on with that. There's plenty of great exercises, and core strength is basically what we need to be working on with that. Things along the lines of on the floor doing planks, side planks and variations of those, and we might look more specifically at core work and planks and stuff in future episodes, or I might put some focus stuff on my YouTube channel. But today we're going to address the part that our glutes play in that. So this is where our practical bit will come in a moment. So the more connected our brain is to telling our glutes to do something, the better that signal will be sent, and it will travel better. But also we'll be able to fire the glutes better. They will be more helpful in terms of keeping our hips in the right position, but then also when our hips are in a good position, we'll be able to land well and drive off that hip, which will make us more efficient, stronger, and more powerful. Okay, so next bit. Now, we don't need to overstretch. Going back to one of the initial points, all of that can give us a sensation of having tightness in our hamstrings. But because of the points I've mentioned around our hips, it's not necessarily you've got tight hamstrings. I know plenty of people who are far more flexible than I am. If we do just sort of a reach for the toes, they can get much further than me. But there's a constant, they feel a constant nag that their hamstrings are tight. Now, if we just address this position like we're going to, then we don't need to spend ages doing lots of hamstring stretches. You're just going to put tension into something that's already tight. So we want to relax the tight areas, and that will allow, so the tight areas being our hips, because that will then take some of the tension away from our hamstrings. So even though the tension is here, we don't need to spend loads of time working on stretching the hamstring. It's kind of a red herring. If you're going to take part in what we're going to do in terms of the practical side of things, then now's the time to come onto your feet. You're going to use a chair or a box or a raised platform. If you're not taking part now, it's fine. Just look back on it later on. Like I said, the video should be available to have a look at and work through in your own time. But essentially, we're going to start with a stretch and some dynamic work through your hip. So with something slightly raised, typically about nearly the height of your knee. It's not, doesn't have to be that high, but something that's a little bit higher than just an ordinary step. So we're going to raise that front foot. Our back foot is far enough away so you just feel like you want to raise your heel slightly, but I don't want you to. I want you to keep the heel downwards. Now from there, you might feel like you naturally want to drop into what I feel like I want to drop into that position, which is exactly what we've been talking about so far that we don't want to get into. So all we're going to do is going to draw in through the belly button, a little bit of tension through there. This leg is straight, and we're going to do that pelvic tilt position from there. So we're not going to let it get dragged down. We're going to turn underneath and engage through our glutes and through the front of our hip from there. Now what I want us to do from that position is just gently encourage some tension and push forwards into that hip there. Now we're going to hold that for about 20 seconds or so. Now if you can't feel that there, what tends to be happening is you're either pushing forwards through your belly button and your tummy and bringing your heel up off the floor, or actually remember we want the heel down, we want the tummy in, tucked underneath and just holding that tension forward for a moment. Now, once we've got that 20 seconds, you're going to relax slightly, and we're going to do 10 repetitions for now, of gently pushing forwards again, tipping into that stretch, and then relax, tip in, hold, and relax. So we're going to do about 10 of these, but you might do 10 to 20 ordinarily. So the reason we do these more dynamic version, rather than just taking it to a point of a stretch and just holding there and not actually trying to increase that length, this just, the first 20 seconds just help you to get into a good set and feel it in the right position. And then the dynamic version just helps to try and encourage to go that little bit further and add a bit more length. So I'll try one more, tucking under, easing forward, and then relax. Right, so you've got two sides, so you're going to change over and do the other side. Again, that back leg, just far enough away so you feel like that heel wants to rise up slightly, but don't let it. Keep it down on the floor, engage through your middle. You're going to do that pelvic tilt underneath, gently squeezing through your bum, initiating the stretch in the front of that hip. Again, we're not slouched, we're not sort of arching back and putting additional tension here, just trying to maintain that shape. Be a fairly straight line up from your heel, up towards your shoulders from there. Pelvic tilt, pointing the hips forward, if not feeling like you're slightly pointing them upwards. And about 20 seconds on that side. Again, trying to breathe as you go through the stretch. Don't hold your breath. And then relax slightly, and then we'll do the 10 repetitions of easing in and relax again. Ease in, push forward. Now the breathing part is important, but if we hold our breath, we tend to add tension to our body. So we brace and we pause when we hold our breath. If we keep the breathing going and stay relaxed, muscles and our body just generally relaxes more as we breathe outwards. So at any point where you want to lengthen, and try and encourage yourself to breathe outwards through that particular part of the stretch. Again, still tipping at the hips, pushing forwards. Still got that bit of switch on through your tummy. We'll do one more. And relax. Okay, so that should have opened us up a little bit. So now that we've opened those up, we can do a bit of work to strengthen and stabilize through the glutes, which have now got a bit more room to work with. Now, strength work on its own isn't 100% what we need to do. If we're stiff, we might think that that's stable. Something's stiff, it's not going to move, it's therefore stable. But what we need to work on in a general action plan is mobility, and then we work on stabilizing it, stabilize an area so we can then control movement. Because it's an area is particularly stiff, if you know that you've got stiff hips, that doesn't mean you're going to be stable or controlled. It just means that when you land on something, you're not necessarily going to be able to tolerate the landing and the movement as we want it to. Because it's so stiff, it's not able to perform its proper duty. So just because something is stiff already and you're aware of it being stiff, that doesn't necessarily mean it's stable. But when we do some of the exercises, we might use the term get some stiffness or get steady and strong in a particular hip, but it's the control element of that cue that we're after. Okay, so you still need to do all your stretching on and around your hips and all that sort of stuff, going back to the yoga I mentioned earlier. So just a dynamic start, just to get a little bit of warmth into the legs. So we don't need any kit, you now just need a strides bit of space. This is just revisiting an exercise that you might have seen already before. So we're just going to do a reverse lunge. So from there, I'm going to stand on my right leg. My left leg is going to step back, and I'm going to drive up into a knee lift and what we call dorsiflexion of your toes or your ankle from there. And step back, drive up, and today we're going to do 12 of those. Great. I'll turn side on when we do the other leg. It's a good stride back, bending well through both knees, trying to coordinate the arms with it as well. As we're dropping down through both legs, this front knee isn't collapsing over there. It's nice and stable, heel down. That's meaning we've got a good strong position in the hip. One more from there, good. Change legs, I'll do this one from the side. So from there, lunge back, drive up, there. Again, really squeeze through your bum and get that good lockout at the top. And that's about 12. I usually pride myself on my counting, but it's hard when I was talking. Okay, so that's a reverse lunge. Now, ordinarily, I might do 1 to 3 sets of that, between 10 and 15 repetitions. Just skipping back to the hip stretch that we did earlier. That sort of thing that you want to sort of chip away at regularly, rather than just doing one good session once a week. You should try and do that most days. You can do it prior to going for a run, or when you get back from your run, or if you've had a long day sat in the car or sat at the desk at work. It's just a good exercise just to get through there. If you keep working on it, you'll make gains. Don't just do it and then leave it for a number of days or a week. Do little bits often as you go along. Right, next one. This is where you can use, you can do this exercise on the floor, so just stood still, or you can use a step, or it works just the same if you didn't have a step and you were just going to stand on a yoga block, or even a good sturdy book if you need it. So, right. So this time you're going to stand. I'll stand on my right leg to begin with. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to try and tap my toes down in front of me, stand back up, and then tapping back behind and back up from there. That'll be 1 repetition. There'll be tap forward and then tap backwards. Now I'll just show you from the side as well. So standing on that one leg, as we're tapping forwards, we're sitting your bum back. What that means is the weight is still through your heel. I'm not sort of coming forwards through here and putting undue stress into my knee. I'm trying to keep my weight down in my heel. If I can't get the toes to the floor, don't worry about it. It's just control and tap through there. So if you started already, great, but I'll carry on from here. I'll call that 5, 6, again, nice and tall at the top, 7, 8. You should start to feel that there's some work in your glute medius, which is at the top corner. Imagine you had a pair of jeans on, that's where that back pocket would start. We'll do 1 more from there. Okay, change legs. Again, balance from there. I'll do a few facing side on and then I'll turn front on again. So from there, push your bum back slightly. 1, control, 2, 3, you keep going. Again, what we're looking at from front on, hang on. What we're looking at from front on is your knee isn't collapsing in towards the middle. You're trying to keep that alignment. As we mentioned with some of the exercise last week, your knee is following your toes forward. That comes from sitting back into your hip. If you're not sitting back, your knee will want to go wandering. It's that stability and that strength in that hip that looks after that knee joint. I'll just do another couple. Again, our arms in everyday life work well for coordination and helping with our balance. They don't have to stay here like this. Let them move, let them help coordinate the exercise. Okay, so you can work on 10 to 15 on each leg. Again, 1 to 3 sets of those is great, just to build up that fatigue and develop that strength there. Next one, quite similar. It's a similar range of movement. You can use the same standing option. You can do it on the floor without a block or without a step. Again, you're going to stand on one leg. This time, this leg is straight. You're going to tap to the side. You're not resting your weight on it. You're just lightly touching the floor and coming back up. Tap to the side from there. Again, we'll do sort of 10 or 12 today. On your own, again, you can try and build up to 10 to 15. If you're really starting to struggle at 6 or 7, then that's just where your level is at the moment. Work to that and then gradually build the number of repetitions up. Again, I'm looking at this alignment in my standing leg, in my knee, and that comes from sitting back into my bum. If I'm not sitting into it, I'm going to twist, my knee's going to come across. If I sit back, now I've got a good stretch into that hip and bum, and that gives you the stability that we're after. Change sides. Again, I'll just do a couple from the side this time. Push your bum back. Again, use your arms to help coordinate and balance from there. So, again, my heel is down on the floor. If my heel isn't down, I'm pushing the knee forward and I'm not sitting back into my bum. If I put my heel down, all of a sudden I can feel, I know there's tension there now. And that's what I'm wanting to use. Just a few more. And squeeze your bum at the top. Another one. Okay, so very similar to the previous exercise, I'm just going through a slightly different range. Okay, right. Right. Digressing a little bit, but not too much. When you've been running in a group, so on a bronze, silver or gold run, or a park run, or you're in a race and you're following somebody and from behind they look like their hips are going up and down, that sort of that travel. So when they land on their foot, the hip lifts upwards, and then again from behind it'll look the same. It looks like their waistband is shifting up and down. Again, that can come down to a lack of strength and also coordination between your brain and your hips and glutes, telling your glutes to fire up. You usually find that sometimes it's worse or it's more prominent on one side than the other. Now, when that happens, when that hip swings upwards, if you like a pendulum, your knee, again, may want to come inwards. Whereas if we can get you up a little bit more solidly on that leg when you land, it's stiffer and gives you that better platform to then step away from. Now, a telltale sign if you're this kind of runner, no one's ever pointed it out to you, is you might be the sort of person that ends up with scuff marks on the inside of the calf or mud marks, because when you land like that and your hip moves up, now that has brought your other trailing leg nearer to the midline, because your hips have gone over there, it's brought this hip across, so now you might find that you get that catching movement there. So if you're the sort of person that notices lots of marks on the inside of your calf when you get back from your run, then perhaps it's just a signal that we just need to work a little bit more on the exercise we've been working on and this final one that we're going to look at now. Now this one we can do on the floor. It does work a little bit better if you're using a step or a block. Most of these exercises you can use at the bottom of your staircase. So if you imagine that's the stairs, you can do the tapping forwards one, back there, the sideways one, and also this one as well. And you also have the assistance of a handrail just to sort of help with the balance a little bit. So this time, both legs are going to stay straight and you're stood towards the inside of the step or whatever you're standing on. Now from here, I want you to actively go into that position that we were just on about there. So that drop on the hanging side and this hip is raised upwards. Now you're going to push and squeeze through the standing leg and pull upwards at the same time. You're going to sit down into it and pull back up through there. So it's just control through that relatively small range of movement. You'll feel like you want to do more. Most of you are probably going to be bending your leg and coming up through there. I don't want you to do that. We're after stiffness in that leg, sitting into the hip and hitching upwards with the other side. There, up. So on the back, there, sitting into the hip, hitching upwards. Again, we might look for 10 to 15 of those. If balance is an issue, then put yourself next to something just to help assist with that. We want to challenge your balance with all of these exercises because that stimulates you to develop balance and get stronger, but not to the detriment of being able to perform the exercise properly or in a worthwhile manner. So have a go at the other side. Again, stand near the inside edge of your step, hanging the spare leg down. Both legs are straight. Hang this foot towards the floor. Lift up, stretch down, and squeeze and lift in at the same time. If you imagine running, that transition would be into this position here. So you'd be squeezing through your glute and you'd be driving this other leg forward from here. There, pitch up. Again, use your arms for whatever prompt or coordination you feel you need. Again, if it was in a running motion, would be here. But you can just stick to that simple one first. Don't try and overcomplicate things because then we start to forget the basics, or the term we used last week was grassroots. We want to keep things simple for now, really get the basics right. Okay, again, 1 to 3 sets of those, 10 to 15 reps on each side, and in that little circuit that we've done today, they would all work quite well together, just as a 15 or 20-minute workout around your hips and your glutes. Again, when you're doing all of those exercises, still trying to think about what we mentioned right at the start. So it's all right working our glutes, but if we just neglect the rest of the stuff, then it's not really going to be very helpful. But if we can think about getting the hips forward, a little bit of a switch on through your tummy, relaxed, controlled posture in your upper body, not that really tight bit there that we sometimes see, just a little bit more control and a bit softer in that stance, then you'll hopefully see the benefits from there. Now, they're just standing versions of hip and glute exercises, because running is essentially a on your feet exercise. You run and you jump from one leg to another. The complementary exercises to those are all the ones that we do on the floor. So again, we went through some of them last week, and they're on my YouTube channel as well. The hip thrusters, single leg work, and all of that sort of stuff. They all work brilliantly as well, but today I just wanted to keep you on your feet, so we work getting down and back up again. Right, so as I finished, there's still a bit of time for you to go out and get your daily bit of outdoor exercise if you haven't done it yet. Other than that, I hope you found some of that useful, and look out for some more glute and hip and core exercises in the future weeks if we continue to do these sessions. And also I'll put some more things on my YouTube channel as well as we go along.